You're listening to a 58 Ember production.
Hey, welcome to Well Made. My name is Kat Kamalani. Here we dive deep into topics like wellness, food, money, relationships, motherhood, and achieving your wildest dreams. Because I promise, if I can do it, I know you can too. We sit with experts and get into the nitty-gritty where they spill all their secrets with me. So get cozy, relax, and let's have a heart-to-heart chat. Okay, here today we have Tori Roloff. Tori, welcome to Well Made. I have to tell something about you that I love, but before we jump into that, I want you to tell my audience like who you are, what you do, your life, how you met your husband, just like a little brief background about yourself.
Yeah, well, I'm Tori Roloff. I am married to Zach Roloff, and we were on Little People, Big World for the last, 10, 12 years. And we've been married for 9 years this year, and we have 3 kids.
Oh my gosh, that is wild. I can't believe you guys have 3 kids. Okay, I have to tell you a little thing that I love about you before we jump in about motherhood and what it looks like and navigating it and all those things. But I was talking to Kayloni the other day and I was saying you are one of those people that when I met you in person, I feel like you are like a safe place. Like you're just warm and fuzzy because usually with somebody that is on TV, first off, may come off like a little bit, what's the word? I don't want to say entitled. That's not the right word, but of like, everyone probably knows who I am. Like everyone knows me and that. So when I met you, it was like you were so humble, so kind. And I just felt like we just clicked and jived. And ever since then, we've had like countless phone calls of hours on end talking about business and motherhood and friendships and like things that are going on in my life, which I just like have to commend you for being just so cool and humble and just a girl's girl, I feel like.
Thanks. Oh, Kat, thank you. I have to say though too, because we met in Brasada at an event that I was so nervous to go to, and I didn't want to be there, and I was just like, it was stepping outside of my comfort zone by miles. And you were that person for me too. Like just meeting you, we had so much fun. And I really appreciate the support that you gave me during that time. So it's been fun to get to know you.
Well, feelings are mutual, babe. Okay, let's jump into motherhood. So you said you have 3 kids. I want to ask you, how was that transition for you going from not having any kids to 3 kids?
I mean, it's been a long process, but I think that I was built to be a mom. Like that was always what I wanted to do. And beyond getting married, I was always just like, I want to be a mom. I just really want to have a family. And yeah, I think that we had our first Jackson, who's almost 7, which is so crazy, but he was the easiest baby. He was super calm, not very fussy, just he was so straightforward. And we were like, oh my gosh, we're so good at parenting. Like, we should just keep doing this. Like, this kid's so easy. We're so good at our
Why does
jobs.
anybody complain about parenting?
Yeah, what's anyone talking about? And then we had Lila, and we were like, oh, okay, we're not as great as we thought we were. And parenting's actually really hard. And it's totally dependent on your kid. But no, she's great though, too. Lila she just turned 4. And then we have Josiah, who's a year and a half, who's his own, like, he's like a boy, he's a year and a half and he's wild. Like you can't sit him down. You can't reason with him. He's full force all the time. We're busy.
Oh my gosh. I always say God gives us the first child to like convince us that motherhood is just so easy. And then they give us our second child to humble us real quick. I always say too, I am the same way with my kids. Luna is an angel. She can do no wrong. And Brooks is like my crazy, energetic, like just take life by the storm. And I hated it because I always looked at like Brooks as like, oh, he's kind of my hard child, like challenges me. And Luna's just like my angel child. And I've had to shift that perspective of no, Brooks is my normal child. And my oldest is my extraordinary, amazing, over the top child. And looking at it as like not a negative point of view. I don't know. How do you look at it?
100%. Oh, I 100% agree. I have said that so many times, especially with my daughter. And like, my daughter's rad now. Like I love like hanging with her. Her and I go shopping together. She's so fun, but she was difficult. she was a difficult baby. And I remember catching myself, especially since we were on a television show, is I never wanted her to look back and be like, gosh, my parents didn't really enjoy me at all, because that wasn't the case at all. She was just more emotional, and it was harder to like, and she still is. She's still emotional, and that's okay. Like, we feel all the feelings in our house. And but I think that it was a mindset for myself to be like, this is just Lila. This is just how she processes life. And she's not Jackson, because we would compare the two of them so much. And Jackson was very even keel, never cried. You could like throw him into the circus and he'd be like, let's do this. Lila was just a different kid. And, we had to adjust how we parent with her, and we're still doing it. I mean, she changes all the time. Josiah, it's constantly a learning curve, and just trying to be the best parents that we can be.
I actually sent this book to you. I don't know if you've read it yet, but my favorite book with parenting is from Dr. Becky. And I think it's called Good Parenting. And that changed the way I parented and like looked at our kids of like, yeah, they can feel all the feelings. They're actually human beings, have their own personalities, and like navigating that. But talking about your household, what does like a normal day look like for motherhood for you? Because looking from the outside in, people may assume like, oh, she probably has a nanny 24/7. They have lots of help. They have family. They have all this stuff. But I'm sure it goes way deeper than that. And it's so different than what people perceive.
Well, we're in a super unique situation because we are both stay-at-home parents, my husband and I. It's not just me. And so I'm in a really unique situation that I'm able to bounce off my husband, and we can kind of help each other throughout the day, just because one of us doesn't have to go to work all day long. Our work schedules are just super sporadic, and we kind of set our schedules for the week. And so it's allowed me to be really present in our kids' school, and just with extracurriculars. Like this morning, I was at soccer with my daughter, and it just allows me to have the flexibility to be present with my kids, which is really cool.
I love that. That's been an adjustment too with Kiloni and I. With him being firefighting, it was like all responsibility on me. And now that he's home, it's like, I can have 100 of these babies. Like, this is so much easier than solo parenting. Was there ever a time that you were solo parenting with Zach being away with the show? Or was it mostly like you guys have always been a team and that's always been it?
Yeah, we really have always been a team. It's always, before we had Jackson, I mean, I had a full-time job before we had Jackson. I taught kindergarten and he was a coach. And so that period of our life was kind of difficult because I would go to work all day and then I'd come home and he would leave. But it wasn't like all the time. And Jackson was only probably a year old, like the first year of his life that was happening. And then after that, it was, just both of us were able to be at home. And Zach is definitely the type of dad that needs, like, he's not built to be a stay-at-home dad all the time. Like, he's the most amazing dad and he's so great with our kids, but he needs something else to do. You know what I mean? Like, he is very, like, sometimes I'm like, just like go out into our shop and do taxes, like go build something on our property. And, so that's been really the only difficult, I guess, adjustment, is him and I just making sure we're still fulfilling what we need and not just our kids.
That's so important. Like filling our own buckets. That's like one of the number one questions that people have asked me when I talk about motherhood on social media is, how do you do both? And how do you not become, like, what's the words I say? Become crazy at a stay-home mom. And for me, it was wearing multiple hats, because just like you being a teacher, I had a whole career and different jobs. And I felt like that transition of going to mom and just being only mom was so difficult. And I was in an organized religion where we were taught that the main job for a woman is to stay home and only be a mom, and that the dad is supposed to go out and provide. So when I was trying to make this transition, like, okay, maybe I'm not made to be a mom 24/7. Maybe I need to have businesses or have hobbies, go work out, or have like things that like I can be creative in. I was feeling this immense amount of guilt because I was supposed to be here. This was my only job and that's it. But after like deprogramming my brain from years of like programming of this is the way it's supposed to be and society telling us this, I thought, no, my kids get a way better version of me when I can do business or I can go and be creative or go to the gym or do whatever and not feel that guilt because I can be more present.
100%, 100%. And I think that that's also been because I think I have a lot of creative outlets that I like to do, and I'm a photographer. I love being at the school. I There's other things outside of the home that I enjoy, but I think I'm also on the other side of that a little bit where I'm like I thrive in my home, and this is my safe space. And so it's like every woman is different, every mother is different. And I think that, in society, it's either you're a stay-at-home mom, like why don't you go get a real job, or you're a career woman and you're like, why don't you like do something at home? And it doesn't have to be that. Like there's so many moms that are out there that are so great at juggling and balancing and being both. And that's so cool.
Do you feel guilt at all doing your podcast, which is amazing, by the way? If you guys haven't listened to her podcast, we'll put it in the show notes so people can go. But doing your podcast, doing social media, doing your businesses, you have real estate, right? That you and Zach run and all of that. Do you feel like there's any type of guilt, or have you like navigated that to like, no, I don't feel guilt with that?
There's always guilt. There's always mom guilt for everything. I don't like our podcast. We film our podcast after our kids go to bed. So
Oh my
usually
gosh,
my guilt is like,
that
I'm
clip
like, can I
of
just
who was it? Jackson coming in. You guys filmed a
Lila
clip.
coming in?
Oh, Lila.
You gotta go to the
And she's saying
bathroom.
she had to go to the bathroom. It was so relatable.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So like they're supposed to be in bed, but then also it's kind of new and exciting to our kids. So they're also kind of like, they'll sneak upstairs to see what we're doing and, just try to be a part of it. But I think like there's mom guilt about everything, and even being a stay-at-home mom and my like priority is here, I still have guilt of like, oh, did I say I love you enough times to my kids? Did I spend enough one-on-one time with my kids? Did I and I still have days that I get mad or frustrated or just tapped out. And, there's always guilt that comes along with that. And, that I don't think that differs whether you're a stay-at-home mom or a mom that works outside the home.
Yeah, I don't feel like it's shown on social media a lot of the both sides of working and being a stay-home mom or just being a straight stay-home mom or the working career and like the feelings behind it. It's like almost curated to, wow, how is she doing everything? How is she running this business and being this perfect mom that creates these amazing things with her kids and crafts? And that's where I feel like the problem with social media and talking about social media is where people get like this little tiny glimpse into your life. And this is mine and yours job. So I know you get what I'm saying, where they get this tiny glimpse into your life with the show or with social media, and they do this perception about you. So I want to ask you, like, how has it been with having your kids on the show and then also with social media and like navigating that with being a mom and your children there?
And I think that is a huge reason why I personally, Zach will tell you otherwise, but I personally, that's a huge reason why I wanted to step away from the show was, we already share so much on social media that sharing our kids' lives, it just started to feel weird, I guess. Like we already show them so much on social media, and our oldest is getting old enough to kind of voice his opinion on things. And he had to have major leg surgery when he was 4 years old. And we filmed it because, that we were filming and it was part of the show. And he had to have a whole other surgery and he asked us not to film it. And that was a huge thing for me to kind of step back and be like, he might not want to share all this information. And, I get a lot, my social media, I have to be grateful for the people who follow me on social media because so many of them are so supportive and so sweet. And it keeps me humble, honestly. And but those few people that would come after Zach and I for our parenting specifically, those are the ones that I couldn't handle. Our kids do have achondroplasia dwarfism, and there are certain health issues that come along with that diagnosis. And I didn't want to be questioned for them. Like I don't need somebody on the internet telling me that I am not getting the proper care for my kids when I absolutely am, when I'm doing everything in my power to like make sure they're taken care of and they're put first. And that was a huge thing on, social media, because I don't share everything. I don't share the hard parts. I try to be a light on my social media, and I try to share things that are helpful and not hurtful, is what we like to say. And there's a lot of hurtful things that I could share, but I don't. We choose not to put our kids out on blast on social media. And yeah, that was a huge part of stepping away.
I love that you guys did that because that's taking a paycheck away from your guys' family. But B, that's a huge life change, especially with you doing something for so long. I always say that like we are the first generation to have our kids grow up on social media. And we're kind of the guinea pigs of how it's going to look like in 20 years. We are going to be the guinea pigs of, okay, these kids were on social media and this is how they are mentally, if they're mental health problems or whatever it is. And for me, I rather err on the like more safe side. And that's why I took my kids off social media a year ago. And it's like you were saying, if we're going to put something out on social media, I always say you have to have thick skin and you have to know that people are going to give your opinions. I can't go on social media and talk about my weight and expect people not to give me opinions about my weight, or go on and talk about my children and they're not going to give me opinions on that subject. So for me, I was in the same boat. I just kind of like, no, I don't want to go down this road. I want to like completely wipe them, which is hard now because they do feel like a secret and it's a big part of my life. And I hate that. And so I do show them a little bit more, but not their faces. And I think over time that maybe I'll eventually show family photos, or I will show little clips, but not make content around them anymore. So I just feel also too, we're just trying our best as moms. What works for me is like
100%.
no judgment for somebody else and what they do and what they feel
100%.
best. I have to ask you a personal question though. Okay. Because, and I'll answer it too. I'll totally answer it. But with your kids, do you pay them if they're in ads or the show or anything like that?
I mean, yes and no.
Tell me. And literally no judgment
like,
here, Tori. No judgment.
I think that there's like, I will just say that Zachary is very financially responsible. And, that is a huge thing that we've been really blessed with the last 10 years is we have had this very unique and very privileged job. And so I will just say that he's very financially responsible, and our kids will be they'll be set up to do what they need to do.
Good for you. I love that. You're taking care of your kids in whatever aspect it might be. For me, to be completely honest, and I told you I would answer this, for the first few years, my kids would be in campaigns. And at the time, they were a little bit smaller campaigns. So it was like $100 here, like $300 there. And at the time, Kayloni being a firefighter and me a flight attendant, it didn't even enter my mind to set up maybe like an investment account or to pocket a little bit of money away from them. And it wasn't until I was like, I made it. This is it. Social media. It's like, I remember I made $500 with a campaign and it was for Pampers. And I was like crying my eyes out. And I just thought, I did it. Like, this is it. And so that was the moment though, where my kids were in. And I said, okay, at that time, if they're in it, I have to commit to giving them 50% of my ad campaign if they're in it. Now, for me, a lot of people ask like, okay, how is it? Do you pay them? If they are in an ad, I obviously talk to them about it. If they want to be in it, tell them as much as I possibly can, like to a 5 and 4-year-old level. And if they say yes, they'll be in it. It's 50% of it. I don't show their faces. But if there is a campaign that comes through that it's a family-oriented campaign, I first talk to them to see if they even want to do it. Is it aligned with us? It's not going to ruin them when they're 22 years old and they're starting a business and someone Googles their name and they were in this like awful video that's going to ruin their reputation. Obviously, I wouldn't take stuff like that. But now if they want to be in it and it's a family oriented, I'll take the campaign, but they get 100% of it. And this is just 2 investments that Kayloni has set up. But on the side, I think every parent should be doing this, not just with social media, because we never know where they'll be and where we will be, because this can be ripped away from us any second. All this could.
100%. And I think that is that's a huge thing to note though too, is even with like our show, and now I'm in this like social media world, that's been a huge discussion in our household, is like, this could end tomorrow, this
Yeah.
could go away tomorrow. And if it does, what's our game plan and where are we going next? And again, like so I have a fallback plan, but it is, I like being at home, and this allows
Yeah.
me to have the freedom to stay home with my kids. And that's something that I will not take for granted ever.
But on the flip side, what I think you're doing is really cool too, is you are building this brand for your family and for your children, where I look at you and I don't think, oh, it's just about her kids, but you do this really delicate dance. I feel like that you bring your kids in some content and not some content, where if they do decide one day to build a social media or to have a business or any of that, that they already have this platform that they can go off of their mom and learn from and build themselves. And that's like amazing. Like, could you imagine being, I don't know, a teenager and starting a business and having this outsource and this resources and starting a
Yeah,
business and like the jump start you could have to it?
100%, 100%. And I do think that's, kind of back to part reason though too, is when we were doing the show, so much of it was centered around our kids, because that's the most interesting thing about Zach and I. Like, seriously, is our kids. Like we're kind of boring.
That's
There's not a ton
not
of
true
drama
at
between us.
all.
No, but it is like our most like interesting thing is our kids. And
Mm.
and during filming, they'd come, Jackson would come home from school and he's exhausted, and the filmers, is how he would call them, would be there, and it didn't feel right to like make him film something because we only have that day of filming this week. So you gotta come and film with us, and I think that really played into this. Like, this is not his burden to bear. This is not his circus. This is like our circus that we're bringing into our house, and we have to take ownership of that. And, you know, um, yeah. So, but on the flip side, they, I hope, can look back on filming and look back on everything that we do. I mean, they're going to look back and be like, what the heck were mom and dad doing? But hopefully they can look back on most parts and be like, proud of what their childhood.
Yeah, you guys are doing such an amazing job. It honestly is inspiring, especially for someone with me of like,
Yeah.
okay, how do I want to look like this? Maybe this will what it looks like one day, maybe not. But pivoting here, I have asked my audience, and this is something that I'm doing with season 2, and it's been so fun, of the topic we're talking about, and they can ask any questions, anything at all. And then we're kind of just give your opinion on it. And so I'm going to dive in first to the first question, and I'll let you
Okay.
answer and then I'll answer. Okay. So the first viewer said, what is the best way to prepare a family and yourself with your husband after a pregnancy loss? And I know both of us have bonded over this, so I'll let you go first of how you did that.
Oh my gosh. The best way to prepare for
Yeah.
pregnancy? Oh
For
my
pregnancy
Lanta.
loss. So it sounds like they had a miscarriage. And she's saying, how do you cope with that afterwards with your husband or your family?
Oh, I mean, golly, I feel like that's such a heavy question, and there's so many different ways to handle it. But for me personally, it was definitely it was the hardest thing I've ever gone through. And it was the most just traumatizing event. And it seriously changed a lot in my life on how I look at a lot of things. And, truthfully, I had gotten baptized a month before. And truly, I don't think that I could have gone through all of that without Jesus. Like, I truly I think that was one of my biggest coming to Jesus moments, is like, I had this loss and I could have really spiraled because it was really difficult for me to process it. But I knew I had Jesus, and that kept me going through everything. And I was so blessed with friends that would pray for me and come and just like sit with me. And it was just, I think it turned into more beautiful thing than it could have been, just because I, rested in the fact that my baby, the first face that my baby saw was Jesus's, and they knew no pain or any. And honestly, that's what got me through it. And obviously my husband was amazing and he stepped in so much. And I think that my kids were really like, I'm gonna like get emotional. It
Hi,
was like
girl. It's okay.
and just like, I think I was so much more grateful for Jackson and Lila. And I thanked God every day that I had kids to love on, because I don't know how that would be if you didn't have kids. If you had this question of, am I ever going to be a mom? Am I ever going to have kids? I had two beautiful babies sitting right in front of me that I had to just thank God for and love on. And I think that it helped me. I did not like pregnancy. I hated pregnancy. I was not a cute pregnant lady. I was uncomfortable, got huge, just not for me. But when I got pregnant after losing my baby, I was so grateful. Like, I didn't complain when I was pregnant with Josiah. I took every minute to just be like, thank you, Lord. Thank you, body. Like, thank you for allowing me to be here.
I have chills right now. Like that, every woman who's gone through a loss should rewind that and listen to it again, because it is so difficult. And I don't know if I can answer that question of how to prepare, because for me, I don't think there's
You
anything you can
can't.
do.
Oh,
Yeah, nothing.
no.
For me, you just have to feel your feelings and allow them to move through you, and allow everyone to feel sad and angry, upset, confused, hurt, hopeful, every single emotion. But on the flip side, I will say, like, touch base on what you said, it's having a community around you and your family and allowing people to do that. It was really difficult for me
100%.
to let people come and bring food in. So I would say, no, 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 like I'm good. Like I don't need it. Like I'm fine. And I would have a friend who just dropped food off. Like she'd even ask, she was like, there's food on your front doorstep. And I was bawling. So now when I have friends go through miscarriages, I've had so many friends reach out to me of like, okay, how did you do this? I just try to send like a little gift of like thinking of them, or I just say, you don't have to say anything. I just want to sit with you. And if you want to chat, great. If you don't, great. But being there for someone and not asking like, what can I do for you, is just do it. Like, just
Yeah,
bring the gift, just bring the
100%.
food. Ooh, that was
And
like
I
a
think
big
that
one.
I think that's such an important thing too, because I went back and forth, because I have a pretty large following on social media, and I went back and forth with, do I share this with the world? Like, do I talk about this on social media? And it was a huge discussion between Zach and I, because we are, in that aspect, I think we're pretty private. Like, we don't talk about like our medical issues very often. But then at the same time, I felt like selfishly I couldn't move on my social media and like continue sharing the good in my life without sharing the goodness that this baby was. And so I felt like I had to share it. But then by me sharing it, I heard so many stories of women who lose babies. And honestly, that was kind of a comfort to me to know that I wasn't the only one that goes through this. And unfortunately, it happens so much. And just being able to talk to other women who have gone through it that wouldn't have shared if I didn't share. And so I think that that's like the biggest thing too, is it's not taboo like it used to be. It's talk about it and like celebrate that baby. And yeah, I don't know.
You're amazing. Okay. The next question is,
That was such a heavy one,
it was
girl.
a
What
heavy one. Sorry.
the
Okay.
heck?
The next one is from She Is Art. And she said, how do you decide / cope with not having any more children? So are you and Zach done, or are you guys still having babies?
No, we are done.
Me
Done.
too, girl. Me too.
I'm tapping out. 3 is my last one, almost broke me. Yeah.
So do
I
you
think
feel
that,
done? Was it that moment like, I feel done. This is
oh,
so easy. I don't have to cope. Like, I'm good.
well, that's what I was gonna say, is there was no coping. Like, they handed me Josiah, and I was like, done. Family built, finished, moving on.
I
Like
did
I
it.
I did like, and I look back, honestly, I look back after Lila and I feel guilt from Lila because I knew that I wanted one more. And so I was so ready to just kind of get through like this bait. I'm not a good bait. I don't like being pregnant and I'm not good at like the no sleep baby stage. So I'm kind of like, all right, let's just get through this so we can do one more and then we can be done. And I think honestly what happened in between Lila and Josiah was like God really telling me to slow down and like enjoy where I'm at. And it's true what they say. You just, like, when you're done and when you are ready to move on.
Yeah, that I wish I had that. Because I don't know how you could cope. Thankfully, Kiloni is all about this is your body and you get to decide what you do with your body. And so for me, I'm the exact same way. I gained so much weight. I have SI joint problems when I'm pregnant. I can't sleep. I don't love the newborn stage either in the sense of not sleeping. Everything else I love. And so I had my babies back to back. I had Luna and then I got pregnant with Brooks when Kaloni was in fire training when Luna was 7 months old. And so
oh my gosh, girl.
He was working like 72 hours a week with his 2 jobs. And I was trying to do social media and be a full-time mom with zero help, like no nannies, babysitters, nothing. And I told Kaloni, like, I'm done. So a month before Kaloni quit firefighting, he got a vasectomy. And I have never felt like we are completely done. I have always felt like, gosh, is there one more? Should I do it? And now Brooks is he's 4, coming on the age of 5 in October. And I think of that huge gap and starting over. So for me, it's every day I feel like, did I mess up? Like, what if one of my children, God forbid, passes away and they're an only child? Or what if I have a third and that breaks me and we want to travel the world and like, what am I doing? And so I am not a good help because it still is like, I don't know. I don't feel done and I don't feel like there is one more, but I will have to say for me, the thing that helped me get the vasectomy and like move forward. And by the way, I get so much hate when people talk about the vasectomy because they talk about all the issues can happen with vasectomies. Like I did not force Kaloni to get a vasectomy. It's his body. He chose to do it.
I'm over here like Zach. I've gotten cut open 3 times.
Yes.
You can do me a solid. Okay?
Did Zach get one?
No, but
yeah.
I'm over here like anytime you want to.
Yes.
I support that.
Yes. Like you've birthed 3 babies. Like, come on, men. It's your turn. Yeah. And okay. So if you don't, then there's some big problem. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, but for me, it is that back and forth. Like I don't feel completely done, but what's helped me with my mindset, I realize my kids deserve a happy mom rather than a sibling. And it wasn't that I was not happy. I just felt like I was always drowning and I would get like a little like air when Kaloni was home, and then I would drown again. And so I don't know. That was my mindset that helped me make the decision. So Godspeed, women. I don't know. That's a hard one.
Hey, you never know. You never know. Things happen, even with those vasectomies. So if it's supposed to happen, it'll happen.
Yes, they do. Okay, last one. Kotek says, as a mom, I struggle with my kids making friends. I don't want to be a helicopter mom, but when I want to step in and help them make friends, how do you navigate this with your kids, especially when they're young?
Oh, gosh.
Do you want me to go first or you?
Yeah, you go first.
Okay. For me, this is one thing my mom taught me and it's always stuck with me. And she says, whatever you put into anything is what you're going to get out of it. So there's times I lived in New York, I lived in Oregon, California, I've lived in Hawaii. And she said, when you go somewhere, what you put into the community, what you put into friendships and other people, that's what you're going to get out of it. So I never go into a situation feeling entitled or expected that people need to reach out to me and people need to come to me and ask me to do things. I always have this two thing rule that I do with friends. And if it's a brand new friendship, like we just met, I will reach out 2 times and try to do something like go out to dinner, invite them over, do something. And if after 2 times they've turned me down and they haven't came back, I just let it be and let the ball be in their court. Obviously that's different for friends that are a little bit older and you've established a relationship. Like I love those friendships that you can go a long time without speaking and just pick back up. But so I've really tried to ingrain in my kids, and I've really done this with Hawaii, is what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. So when we're walking down the street and we see little girls, I have Luna practice with me at home, going up to them and asking them questions like, hi, my name is Luna. What do you like to do? What's your favorite color? Do you like Taylor Swift? And then I have her say, okay, let's meet their parents and invite them over, or let's have them come over here. And that's kind of the way I try to give them tools and not step in and be a helicopter parent, but give them tools of like how to make friends and navigate those type of friendships. I don't know. What about you?
I love that. That's awesome. I feel like that would be really helpful for my daughter, who can be a little bit more shy and not as outgoing. But I think that we're still kind of in this stage of like, my kids are still young. They're
Yeah.
not really at that stage yet. Honestly, it's like Zach and I have talked a lot about how, or honestly, we've heard it on, anyway, it's really us. We have to step out of our box in order for our kids to make friends, because at this point, we're the ones that are in charge of the schedule. We're the ones that are in charge of like where our kids are and what they're doing. So it's important for us to make connections with people for our kids, and I say this humbly, like Zach and I'm very outgoing. I'm very social and I'm very outgoing. However, I'm not always the greatest friend, to be honest, because I suck at texting. I forget about voicemails and like all the time,
You
and
guys,
so,
she's lying. She's absolutely lying. You are such a good friend.
but I tell my friends all the time, I'm like, if I don't respond to you, just text me back and be like, Tori, you forgot, and because some people will take offense to that. Some people, I have friends that will think I'm mad because I didn't respond. And it's like, no, actually I just kind of forgot, but I am outgoing and I'm social, but I'm not always like actively looking for new friends, because I think I have a really core group of friends that I am so grateful for and that I've had since, elementary school. I live in the same area that I have my entire life. And so I say this humbly that like my oldest, especially, I'm like, can we stop making friends? Like, can we maybe like rein it back in for a minute? Cause he's like, I want Johnny from, down the road to come over for a play date. And I'm like, who's Johnny? Like, so he's just like very outgoing and very like, and he's one of the greatest things about Jackson is he's very inclusive, which is so cool because he's different already. And kids like want to be his friends, which Zach and I are like, where did this guy come from? Because we were not like that as kids. We did not make friends easily. We were both kind of shy, so I like, and I say that humbly, but I am kind of like, it'll be interesting to see what we do with Lila, because Lila's a lot more shy and she needs a lot more encouragement to go out and make friends. And, especially being a girl who is different, I do worry about what other girls, because girls can be catty and girls can be like just not very nice. And so I definitely will be like looking to people like you to be like, oh my gosh, what do I do? How do I navigate this with my daughter? Because I think that it's going to be harder to make friends. But I could be wrong. She could be like, she could find her core and just run with that. And that's what I pray for all the time. But you
Yeah.
never know.
Getting them in a lot of sports, I feel like is a good thing too. I know Jackson's is in soccer, right? Is that you were telling me that
And
one time?
baseball. Oh yeah. He
Yeah.
does all the things.
I feel like every time I'm talking to you, like you're like, I'm going into swim lessons. I'm going to soccer, like,
Yeah.
which is cool because he can find a lot of friends that way. But also too, I think it's important to teach our kids not to be that friend that does get offended by everything. I've told you this like 1,000 times. I'm like, you're like, I'm so sorry I didn't text you back. I'm like, girl, don't ever apologize. Like life is busy. I will never be offended, like ever. And so like teaching our friends not to be that friend that is offended about everything. But yeah, it is hard because you do want to swoop in and be that parent that like saves them and not let them feel feelings and like make them have friends all the time. But we just all need to have the problem Jackson has and have too many friends.
I know. We really do. We all just need to be more like Jackson. We say that all the time in our house. We're like, I just wish we were more like Jackson.
I love that. You're such a cutie. Well, Tori, I have really appreciated you coming on. I know you're so busy. being a mom and running a business. I'm going to link all her social media platforms below and the site and where you can listen to her podcast with her husband, Zach. It is so hilarious and innovative. And it's especially like amazing because you are navigating the narrative of what you want to put out there. And in it, it's good, you guys. You will laugh and you will cry.
you.
There's seriousness, there's happiness, funniness, all in between. But anyway, I love you and thank you for coming on. And we will see you guys next time. If you were inspired by today's episode, I encourage you to tag me on social media at Kat Kamalani so I can personally thank you myself. I would love to hear your thoughts on my podcast, so go ahead and leave a review. So high five for finishing the episode and trying to better yourself. I hope you found it informative, inspiring, and thought-provoking. I will see you again soon for another episode. Take care.
This has been a 58 Ember production. For more shows, please visit the 58 Ember channel, 58ember.com, or find us at 58 Ember Media on socials.